Great. So proven strategies for unleashing GitHub Copilot's power in startups. Like that's a mouthful. I promise I'll try to keep it entertaining. And again, with my perspective as someone also that has worked in a few startups doing software engineering. So what's the deal today? Well, we have developer disruptions. When you're part of engineering, these days we're talking about hybrid work environments. Some are working in the office, some are working from home. Sometimes it's divided 50-50. You have to go to the office sometimes. There's engineering friction, and we'll talk a little bit about that, what that means, and there's interruption. So kind of like the deal here that we're talking about is that you are essentially trying to build product, trying to make progress in your product, and there's a cost in speed, in time spent trying to build things, trying to set up things, and it's tricky. At some point, I used to work at a company that had this wasn't necessarily a startup. We were like a group of 30 engineers, and we thought that on average to try to set up, like on a new hire, to try to set up the development environment, it would take up to a week and a half. And there was this one time we hired this person and he was able to get it just under a week to get his development environment set up. So, and we thought that was incredible. We thought, man, this person is amazing. What a great hire. Now imagine on a startup spending a whole week on a new hire just to trying to set up an environment. I mean, it's kind of tricky, right? So the best that we can do on trying to make some automation work for us and try to get these development environments set up and pre-configured and pre-automated so that we can get started easily, that's going to be better. And today we're going to mix a couple of things. One is cloud development environments, and the other one is using artificial intelligence. And the reason for cloud environments, and I'll show you one of the techniques that I use, which is based on GitHub Codespaces. I think it's pretty compelling because we can configure, we can set up everything we need to get a development environment set up and ready to go exactly with the tools and the right settings that a software development or software engineer will need to get started. And then, I think it's essentially all of these pieces allows us to do one thing, and that's focusing on building an application, on trying to get exactly what we need and concentrating the things that are important. Setting up a development environment or dealing with all of the other intricacies about software engineering, well, they are tedious. It's almost busy work, as I would put it if I was a software engineer back again. So how does this work? Well, we, at the end of the day, we're building applications faster because we're empowered. We have the right tools, the development environment all set up with us. And we're optimizing the developer experience because as a developer, like I said, what are the things that are interesting to us? What are the things that we want to do? Well, we want to build. We want to get things moving, get things off the ground. If there are bugs, we want to fix them. Anything that is outside of building or fixing or being in the code, it's far from ideal. So developer experience, if developers are happy, well, everything goes much better. So it all starts by bringing artificial intelligence into the IDE or the text editor. So what are we looking at? Well, getting up to speed with existing code. We're thrown into foreign projects as a software engineer in startups. Before I've been, once I was actually asked, there was a release manager for our whole project, and he used to send emails at 4 in.the morning saying, "Hey, the new release is out." And it didn't take too long until this person said, "That's it. I'm no longer part of the company. This is too much." And someone reached out to me and said, my manager actually reached out to me and said, hey, Alfredo, so you said once that you've done something with Jenkins, which is a CI/CD well, one of the most popular CI/CD platforms in the world. And I said, yeah, I've seen it before. I've done a couple of things before. Great, you're going to have to be the release manager now because this other person is no longer around. Good luck. So this is a fairly common situation on startups, and we're thrown into foreign projects, and we need to figure out things very fast. Like I can't say, well, give me a couple of months while I try to untangle these scripts and all the things that were happening here. And this is something that AI can help us out. The other thing is sometimes as we're building these blocks and as we're making progress, trying to do better with the code that we have, well, we're writing boilerplate code. I can certainly create pieces of code that are manipulating text in one way or the other. And, this tends to be tedious. We already know what we want, and we want to get that out of the way as soon as possible. And the other thing is that we also have making sure that we're diagnosing our issues correctly. So sometimes when we have to understand what's going on, well, we want to leverage tools out there that will help us understand exactly what is exactly going on. So this is where GitHub Copilot enters the whole scene. And with Copilot, well, we have the ability to do all those things: go faster, get rid of not get rid of boilerplate, but get boilerplate out of the way by getting that help from GitHub Copilot as an extension to our text editor. So the developer productivity is besides the speed. Yes, 100% you can go faster, but there's a little bit more going on here. So we have the capacity to spend less brain cycles into tasks that are, well, somewhat repetitive. Sometimes, like a good example of this is like writing tests. When we're writing tests for an application, it tends to be repetitive. Usually software engineers do not like tests, and I can tell you that I've been a test advocate for the longest time. I really like writing tests and making sure that the products that I build are robust and efficient and working correctly. But Copilot makes that a breeze, and it's really nice. And then, getting that out of the way, the repetitive tasks, the boilerplate code, and then focusing on the work that is more important to me. I think that's great. And that's definitely reflected when we've asked other developers as well. And the last thing, which I think is kind of crucial, is that because the repetitive tasks are out of the way, because we're able to focus on the work that is most satisfying, most important to us, well, we're able to stay in the flow much longer. And what does that mean? Well, at the end, that means that I will be more productive. I'm happier, I'm doing better work, I'm more energized, more motivated to do the things that I want. So one thing that is kind of new, although it's been out for a few months, sometimes these advancements in what we have today with AI seems like we're going at 100 miles per hour, but Copilot Chat was announced late last year. And what it is bringing the conversational AI specific to software engineering, code development, to the text editor, so we can interact in ways that before wasn't possible. So when GitHub Copilot started, it was basically a tab completion, and I'll show you kind of like how that looks, like a tab completion type of workflow. And now bringing the chat is a little more interactive. We can ask questions, we can get feedback, and we can iterate based on what we're seeing. So the GitHub Copilot extension is right now, it's available, so you can actually go ahead and try it out. But there are limits, as with anything with with AI specifically, there are limits to what's going on. So, the way Copilot works, well, essentially behind the scenes, it's a large language model that is specific to solving coding tasks. Now, depending on the training of this large language model, the type of helpfulness and the certainty and the effectiveness that the model is going to have when it's providing suggestions, well, it's going to be based on the data that it was trained on. And what does that mean? Well, if we're trying to do something, if I create, this is a great example, if I create a new programming language today, and I want GitHub Copilot to just send me some suggestions, well, that's going to be kind of tricky because it doesn't have the examples to provide me meaningful code suggestions. On the flip side, one of the most popular, or two of the most popular programming languages out there, one being JavaScript and the other one Python, you're going to have very, very good results based on the fact that these are popular. The training data is right there. Another thing is that GitHub Copilot is not a compiler. What does that mean? If you're not using a compiled type of language, your startup or your product does not use a compiled style of programming language, it basically means that a Copilot cannot make sure that everything will compile, everything will work once it has generated the code. At the end of the day, all of these large language models, all of these generative AI-based models, we should treat them as probability machines. What we're trying to come up with is the best suggestion possible based on some type of input. That doesn't mean it's going to be 100% correct all the time. It's going to be probably super helpful, and most of the time it's going to work, but it is not something that should be treated as fact. And that's why we tend to say that GitHub Copilot is not a pilot. It is a co-pilot. It's on the co-pilot seat, and it's not driving. I'm driving. I'm in control. I'm the software engineer. So it also, again, it's not an automated tester or a security scanner. It's not going to do all those things. You, as a software engineer, are still in charge. And of course, and this is in general, AI cannot read your mind, like it can't understand, but there are things that we can do to kind of like push it into the right direction. The way I describe this behavior is kind of like a toddler, especially a toddler that's starting to walk. And if you're a parent, you probably have experienced that where you're holding the little one's hands and you're saying, no, let's go this way, and the toddler turns to the left and it's like, no, let's go to the right. And then it goes to the right, and then after a second or two, it gets distracted and wants to go to the left again, and you have to no, come back, turn around, it's this way. So that behavior and that type of workflow is also kind of common when we're talking about GitHub Copilot and how it works. All right, so what we have here and what we're going to do is we're going to do a demo. And the demo is going to talk a little bit, it's going to dive into this cloud environment that we were mentioning in the beginning. And this cloud environment is going to be based on GitHub Codespaces. And I have an example repository for you that you'll see. And that's already pre-configured with GitHub Copilot. And we'll see kind of like what are some of the things that we should be looking at when we're dealing in that type of environment. All right, and if you want to take a look at the demo and follow along, the Codespace environment, by the way, it's available as long as you have a GitHub account. There's Codespaces it has like a free quota that you can take advantage of. And if you have Copilot or access to Copilot, well, make sure you try it out. It's pre-configured with that. Now, I'm going to X out of the presentation. So I am going to, let me see. Let me stop sharing. And I am going to share again so that you can see my my demo. Give me 1 second. I use this one and I'm gonna click share. Perfect. I'm gonna be looking this way because that's where my monitor is. And in here, what we're gonna have is we are going to have a repository. That's what we shared in the beginning. And it's this one right here, travel weather, and it's an API. So I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom, and we're going to play a couple of assumptions here. The first assumption is that I've been thrown into this project. I have no idea. I've been told, hey, you know, you need to take a look at this. You need to get this thing going, figure it out. The previous developer said that this is a Python weather API. You need to figure it out. So there's a lot of files. I'm not very sure what's going on. Let's take a look at the issues. We have a couple of issues here. I'm going to have to authenticate there. No problem. Automation for Azure deployment. Create a GitHub action to automate the process. That's good. This one's containerize the web application. And this one is add a new route to the API. So the API is not exposing country/country. So okay, so that sounds okay. It's a good descriptions for the issues, but I'm not entirely sure what to do. Now, what this repository has is that its code spaces ready. It has a development environment on the cloud ready. So let's get that started. I'm going to say code. And instead of going to local here, I'm going to click on create code space on main. And I'm going to create it with options. So instead of creating create code space on main, I'm going to create it with options so you can see kind of like what are the options that are available. So we have the branch, the container configuration, the region, and the machine type. I'm going to pick up, why not, 16 core, like a beefier machine, just because I can. So if I'm going to zoom here a little bit. If you're familiar with Visual Studio Code, you will understand that this is actually Visual Studio Code again, but on the browser. Now, I could also open this locally in my local Visual Studio Code instance, but we're relying here on the development environment. I've chosen just to keep it there, on the web browser to make it easier. Now, I'm gonna make this full screen here. Now I'm gonna go back to the repository. No, not that one. I'm gonna go back to the repository, GitHub, and I'm gonna say Microsoft travel weather. And what I'm gonna do here is gonna walk around what are some of the instances, some of the files, some of the interesting files. So it has a web application. Let's take a look at the requirements. Let's see what we're dealing with here. So we have Fast API, Pydantic, Unicorn. I believe that's a thing to start the application. It seems to have some testing requirements there as well. And Fast API, if I'm not mistaken, is a web framework. That's pretty cool. It is, after all, an API. So let's take a look at travel weather here, and then let's go to web app. I would say that probably looks like the right place to look for the logic. So we have a main.py, and we have 41 lines of Python. It's not much, but enough to feel confused if you're not familiar as to what is going on. And we have a couple things that are getting exposed, it seems. That's pretty interesting. So let's see if our development environment is good to go. So I'm going to close these ones. All right, so a lot of things are going on here. Let's work with them one by one. First, I'm going to get rid of all of these so we can have more room. I'm going to click on this one. And what's happening here is that this development environment was set to get started right away. You can see here that Unicorn is running on host 0.0.0. That means that our application has started already. And this is happening in the terminal. I didn't have to install any dependencies. Did you see that? Because everything's pre-configured, then it's great because I don't need to, as a developer, I don't need to understand what version of Python, what dependencies and what versions were they installed in the right spot. Things are pre-installed and running, and I'm good to go. So now I'm going to close these, and you can see that right here the application is running. So I have a simple browser, which is an extension, a built-in extension that allows me to look at the actual API. This is an API, so pretty cool. So we can see that there's root /countries, city and month. So remember, this is a travel weather API. So we want to understand actually what's going on. So let me get rid of that one so that we can see chat. So we have a couple of things here. This one right here is chat. These are chat interface. We're gonna be able to open this in a second and see what's going on. So with that, it seems that these are the routes. And remember, we had to add a new route. So what we're going to do here, we're going to take advantage of the development environment. And because our application is set to reload, we should see some of those reflected here once I add that. So how we're going to do this, we're going to, first, we're going to start by saying, I'm gonna type a comment. Do you see that that got populated right away? Get the cities for a specific country. That's called ghost text, and that's GitHub Copilot behind the scenes, trying to anticipate exactly what I need. As a software engineer, this is fantastic because it's kind of like trying to read my mind and trying to give me what I want, what I potentially want based on the context. So the file there has enough information that Copilot behind the scenes thinks this person wants to probably do something here. But I don't want the cities for a specific country. Remember the example of the toddler grabbing the hands and walking to the right, and then sometimes he walks to the left. This is Copilot trying to walk to the left, and we want to like, hey, no, let's just go to the right. That actually, that example, it sounds like I should do it the other way around because I'm a lefty. But let's try this. Let's try to get better. So if you remember, the issue was to expose the cities for a country. So actually, that's exactly what that is exactly what this comment is doing. So, but instead of being kind of like generic, I'm going to make it more explicit. Create a route that returns, yeah. So it's actually auto-completing for me, and I'm going to hit tab to accept. So for a given country. And then I'm going to hit return. And again, that's ghost text that is getting suggested. I could not accept that suggestion and just and say, no, I just want to type it all, and then that would be fine. So let's see, countries. Countries should return all of the cities, and that seems fine to me. So I'm going to hit tab and accept that. And then def is the function definition for Python, country list data country keys. So this looks correct to me. So I've saved that, and the terminal should have refreshed. I'm not going to show you the terminal right now because it's going to take us some real estate space. I'm going to reload this, and now I have this new route here, which is countries. Perfect. So why don't we try it out? The good thing about Fast API and this thing is that it's interactive, so we can interact with the API as we're trying it out. So I'm going to try it out, and I'm going to say this is so where are we? So we're going to execute. This doesn't look correct. Perhaps it's because it's zoomed in too much. Let me see. Parameters. Let's cancel that one. That looks kind of weird. Let's see. Oh, so I know what's going on. So remember that I told you that sometimes the actual code that we're gonna get is not exactly 100% right. Well, I assumed that this was already good to go, but it is having a problem. So if I go back to the code, Do you see this is a get? That's a get. So because it's not taking a parameter, it's well, it's causing a problem. So let's try to figure out exactly what we need to do here. I'm gonna zoom in again. So no parameters. These operation level options, I'm gonna clear that. And there you go. That's what we need. Well, that's what we want. And what we're getting here is, oh, that is for countries. Apologies. So I had the wrong endpoint. What we want is this one, the slash countries, this one right here. Apologies. So well, let's try it out. So in here, we have the ability of passing that portion of the URL. So the portion of the URL that we want is this one right here called country. You see it right there? So this one is, that one is going to have to go there. So I know that there's quite a few, and we saw a few listed here, right? So we say execute. We saw that we have England, France, Germany, Peru, Portugal. So we have quite a few. So let's pick Peru. I'm actually from Peru. I was born in Peru. So I'm going to reset that. And I'm going to say, I'm going to try it out. And the country is going to be Peru. And I'm going to execute that. And that sounds like it only has Lima. Perfect. But, you know, there's a problem. There's a bug with this route. It was seeing the issues. And the issue is that if I do lowercase and execute this, then this is going to give me a 500. Let's open up the terminal right here. Let's toggle the terminal. And we're gonna see that our application has it's spitting its guts all over the terminal. Not good. 500 internal server error. Things are not going well. And we have this huge traceback saying that there's a key error. So why is that happening? So there's a couple of things that we can do here. First, we can say, you know, as a software engineer, can say, well, I am not entirely sure. Let me see, copy. I'm not entirely sure what's going on. And I can say, terminal had some problems with a request. So a couple of things that are happening here. I told Copilot, hey, there's stuff that is going on here, and take a look at my terminal and see what is going on. So it's grabbing all of the references and it's trying to determine what's going on. And I used the terminal, which is a special thing that will grab that context, but it didn't. And I'm going to say, well, I have a key error. I'm going to paste that. And as a new developer, I could say, well, you know, my understanding is getting better, and it's picking up my code, my changes to grab them in the context and try to figure out exactly what is going on. So let's quickly go ahead and change these. And it seems that if country in data is like a good way, otherwise country not found in data. So if I minimize or X out of the terminal, I can actually, I can do a couple of things. I can copy, show you, I can copy what I want, or I can insert at the cursor. Now, that sounds okay, and I can do either or, but let me show you one that I actually like a lot. So now I understand the problem, but I don't like this solution. I want to make it better. So I'm gonna take out these, and I'm gonna say, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna select these, and I say, I have an inline chat option that I can actually go and interactively provide something that kind of like guide Copilot as to what I want. So I'm going to ask for something. I'm going to say, this is causing a key error when the country is using an incorrect casing. Help me be case consistent by making it always uppercase. Otherwise, return, how about a 404 instead of 500? So that sounds correct to me. I'm gonna hit that. And what I'm going to get, and which is kind of cool for a developer, is that I'm going to be able to try to get to see my code changes in a diff, which is something that I'm very comfortable as a software engineer. Now, this looks almost correct, but it's not uppercase. I think it's capitalized. So let's fine tune. Let's refine exactly my ask with Copilot and try to make it a little bit better. So I'm gonna say this looks great, but I'm gonna scroll here a little bit. There we go. I need the country capitalized, not in full uppercase. So I'm going to hit return, and then Copilot is going to, did you see how quickly it changed? So it changed from upper to country to capitalize. And if country is not in data, then it's going to raise an exception with a 404. So I'm going to accept that. And I believe, let's take a look if the exception was important. So because the exception was not imported, this person right here is going to cause, this line is going to cause problems because it's not here. So what I'm going to say is, I'm going to put, I'm going to make an ask, help me import from the right place in the fast API code base. So I know I need to import it. And from fast API import HTTP exception, I believe it's okay. So I'm gonna try to do that. Okay, so I'm gonna save that. I'm gonna reload these. I'm gonna go to country, and then I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna say Peru in lowercase, and let's see if that works. So yeah, there we go. It does work. So pretty excellent. I'm very happy with this. So now I can actually do all other kinds of things like write a test and write documentation. So very quickly, we mentioned writing tests is kind of like tricky and or not tricky, but repetitive. So let's do something like add a test. So I'm gonna say inline chat again, and when I hit slash, I get these special types of helpers that I'm gonna get. So I'm gonna say tests, right? I'm gonna say help me generate one test for this route that verifies the country. I'm typing here, country of Peru. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to get a very interesting response. So first of all, and this is kind of hard to tell, so but essentially what's happening here is that Copilot figures out, oh, this person wants to add a test. And that test that this person wants to add is happening in a different file. So in that file is where the test should go, because it understands that for Python specifically, things go in test underscore, some other file. So yes, you know what? I am going to, well, it added a couple more, but I'm going to accept that and apply it. And now if I open the file explorer, you will see that test underscore main is changed. So I'm going to open that. And is this one right here. Now, again, this is not 100%. This is kind of broken, and I'm going to show you how. So do you see how the other function is right next to the other line? So this is not quite right. So I'm going to do this and properly format. So the cities are not correct either. I know that the only city that was available was Lima, so I can actually say the only city available is Lima. So now I'm being more concise and even more direct. And now it's like right away, it's making this thing correctly understand that it only needs to have Lima. Now, I know how to run tests in Python, so I'm going to toggle the terminal. I'm going to open a new one. And I'm going to go to web app and going to run PyTest, which is the tool that I should be running. And then I have my 3 tests, including the test cities Peru. So this speed of development and this good understanding of what's going on is essential for, for developer happiness, which is exactly what we all want. Now, one last thing that I want to show you is the ability to write documentation. So first off, if we go here, we can say doc, help explain this route. And we're going to get a doc string, which is the actual correct thing to do. I'm going to accept that, but that's fine. But beyond doc strings, what I really like is to have documentation in the README. So let's look at the README here. And as a former software developer that have worked in startups, things that are not documented, not good. Things are going to be problematic. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use a special keyword for Copilot, which is at workspace. And Copilot is going to grab the whole context of the whole project, and it's going to use all of that so that I can put something here that will work. By the way, I have here that Copilot is disabled for READMEs, but I am going to enable it. So there we go. I think that makes it enabled. There we go. Nope. I want to enable. There we go. Enable completions for Markdown. So you can actually disable Copilot for certain types of files. So I can get the same same type of suggestions here, and I can do that. But I don't want to show you that. I want to show you actually the workspace. I'm going to try that very quickly. I'm going to say workspace. I want to document how to start the framework for this project. There's a makefile. Use the makefile as a reference on what to use in the terminal and how to install the dependencies for this Python project. So I'm gonna ask, and it's going to use all of the files in the project to get me started. And it's trying to figure out exactly how to provide me what I've asked, and it's collecting all of the information. So it's using the reference, the README, because that's what I have open, and it will help me out right here. So now, the other thing I'm going to say, this looks great. Now help me do this in Markdown format. So now I can, again, I'm refining, I'm refining my ask so that I can get it in the way that I want, which is making me more productive. I don't need to kind of like get a blob of text that I need to translate and do it, rather differently. So now this starts to look very good, and I can go here and say, put it here, starting the framework. That looks correct to me. Now it forgot to add that over there. And then I just can keep going and going and keep adding more information there. So this looks great, and I can actually keep going with the documentation. So finally, we have the need for automation, and doing things by hand is not good. So another thing that we can do is we have all these pieces. We have a little bit of the documentation. I'm not gonna keep going with the documentation, although I could, to jump over to the automation. So I think this is great, and I'm gonna be more conversational here. I'm gonna be like, this project looks like it is in a good spot. It has tests, but I want to make sure that we can validate the code works. And there's a linter. How about like a linter will help to format everything and make it look nice. And a linter can run without issues on every pull request. What are some things that I can try here? Maybe let's give it a hint. Maybe GitHub Actions. So being conversational allows me to to try to get exactly what I want here. So here's a basic file, so that looks correct, and it's doing all of the automation for me. It's looking like, well, make your suggestion, and I'll tell you exactly what that is about in a second. Make your suggestion based on the make file. So what happened there is that my organization, if the suggestion looks like it will match public code, you can actually change that so that doesn't happen. So I can't use Copilot to something that matches public code exactly. So what I did here, because I changed it to use the make file, well, it doesn't match anything out there. But beyond just giving me the answer, it's giving me an explanation. And this is what I like, because then it tells me exactly how I need to get this correctly installed, which is creating this .github/workflows and get it up into a YAML file. So that's it for this demo. And I'm gonna stop sharing here, and I'm going to go back to my slides so that you can actually see. Well, essentially, I'm going to share my screen again. Actually, I'm gonna say. I'm going to share that one. Sorry for the back and forth. Let's slideshow right here. All right. So we had that API development. We use GitHub Copilot, and what does that look like? Well, we were able to go very fast, not only with the development environment, but with GitHub Copilot helping us out figure out exactly what we needed. Right. So to recap some of the things that we looked at, well, we gave single, specific, and very short messages to Copilot. If we were generic, things wouldn't work correctly. This single responsibility means, like, let's try to be very accurate, very concise into what we're asking. Our prompts need to be, well, essentially specific, not generic. And we need to aim for short responses. If the response is, like, super long, the inaccuracies, the inefficiencies of the response are going to be, well, not ideal. So what are some things that Copilot likes? Well, anything that looks like a pattern, like a regular expression, like cron. In this case, we saw like a specific route from the framework. And then we also saw that sometimes we can get into trouble, right? We can get things that are not quite right, so we need to verify. It's up to us. We are the pilot after all. Context is everything. All of these extra files that are in the project allows Copilot to understand more what's going on and to give us a better answer based on our project. And finally, we also saw how to refine our responses, right? Like, hey, give me these. This response looks good, but not quite. I need a little bit, something a little bit different. We saw that in the test, as well as we were working with the arguments in the casing on the route. So, we part of Microsoft, as part of Microsoft, we think developers are great. We love developers, and enhancing our tools to get developers, to make developers more happy, I think is great. And so now let me talk to you a little bit about Microsoft for Startups. You get all you need to apply to startups is just a LinkedIn profile. If you have an idea, if you have a startup, even if you don't have an LLC yet, you can get benefits that will help you out, take off in your idea. You get there's several levels, and you get access to several credits as well for different products, including Azure OpenAI, which I think is pretty interesting. So if you want to sign up, I would recommend using this one. You can use the link here, aka.ms/CMU connects Founders Hub. Use that link. Otherwise, you can use the QR code, which is the same thing. And that's it. That's it. Thank you so much. If you want to connect with me, this is the QR code for my LinkedIn profile, and happy to answer any questions if you have any. Let me